Welcome back to the Compound Podcast. This is episode 227. 228. Presented by Parse Rum, our friends at Parse. Go to Binny's. Get your Parse Rum. Ask about Parse. Say the Compound sent you. Say, hey, Compound sent me into Binny's. Can you tell me where to find my Parse? And they'll tell you. Grab a 3-year. It's a great time to mix in the apple cider. Watch a game on Sunday. It's beautiful. Parse Rum. Go to Binny's. Get your Parse. Good. You got topics? I got some topics.
I have a topic. Does Ian make it through the podcast tonight, or is he bailing early? Care to comment?
That's
listen. I'm just asking a question.
I don't know if you guys said on the last pod, after I left, but I had.
So you're admitting you didn't go back and listen. You didn't check how we covered.
Actually, can I say I was listening?
Such a lie.
Today, actually, I finished one of my other podcasts and the Compound popped up, and so I did listen to about 5 or 10 minutes of you guys chopping, but it would have been after the time that you would have maybe told the story. But what had happened was, got back to Austin, Wi-Fi was supposed to get set up, got delayed by a day. Did not get set up, and so I was just Wi-Fi-less. So I went off the hotspot. We got about 20 good minutes out of it, and then I started sounding like I was on Mars. So we had to cut that, and I had to get out of there. But I grinded for the boys.
But you did. I was just gonna say you grinded. You tried.
I tried hard.
You tried, and that's all we can ask.
The playoffs has started since the last time we recorded. I would like to talk about the wild card games. Okay. Just real quick, we'll touch on wild card. We'll move on.
Well, what sucks is you getting cut off. We weren't able to give predictions, and now it's pretty deep in here to where it'd be cheating at this point. I think the Mets got a good chance of upsetting the Phillies, if I had to guess.
I did text my predictions in there, though.
What were they?
Mine are accounted for. I think I was Phillies Yanks. But I'm not positive.
I think the Tigers are going to the World Series.
You said Phillies Guardians.
Phillies Guardians. There you go.
And the Phillies win,
Guardians,
and they're a game away from being at home.
But my predictions are accounted for. All right. So wild card, Tigers win 2-0. Royals win 2-0. Padres win 2-0. And then we get the really good 3-game series with the Brewers and the Mets, and the Mets win in 3. This is what I have written down for the teams that lost. Do you want to talk about the teams that won really quick, or about the series at all? Do you want to anything that you guys want to add on those series? I thought the Mets Brewers series was pretty great. That was probably the one that I watched.
Did the Mets were down to their last out? Was it 2 outs or was it 1 out? No, there's 1 out. First and third, 1 out with Pete and the homers, which was sick for Pete. Obviously, I'm back home in the New York, Connecticut region. Can't really miss what is being said about the Mets, and it just seemed like, Tom, you can agree, it seemed like no matter what Pete Alonso did, it was wrong. He just wasn't playing well, wasn't getting big hits. And for him to step up in a huge spot like that in the biggest game of the year, in the biggest spot of the year, and to obviously stay as locked in as he can, as he was, dropped a fly ball a few innings before, to have that mental, strength, honestly, to go up there and just be locked in against Devin Williams and take some nasty pitches and stay to his plan. That is pretty unbelievable.
To your point, Zach, I was up at my parents' house, and one of my favorite things to do is to listen to local radio, to put on the local sports talk and just hear it. And 104.5 in Albany, it was July, was if the Mets don't trade Pete Alonso, Steve Cohen should sell the franchise to it was the most insane take. And they were, of course, in the way that local radio is, just so angry and yelling about it. And I was like, they're really going to and obviously the big rumor at the time was Alonso to the Cubs. Very interesting how it's worked out now. Howie Rose had one of the best calls you'll ever hear from a radio broadcaster.
He's unbelievable.
He was. If you haven't heard it and you care about baseball and the radio at all, it's genuinely one of the best calls in the 21st century. Talking about how it could have been Alonso's last at bat. storybook. And now for the Mets, like, is it happening?
That's what, like,
honestly, if you ask me right now, which New York team do I feel more confident in? I think it's the Mets.
Dude, they just, I mean, first off, we're watching the Dodgers and Padres game right now. Tom, I don't know if you have it on. Tatis just hit a homer that may have caused an earthquake in California.
That was a bomb.
Crushed. No, but seriously, like, if he gets out in that at bat, like, God forbid he grounded into a double play in that at bat, like, done. It's completely over. And since then, like, he's been a huge, obviously, he's Pete Alonso, but, like, he's been a vital part in the last however many games they've played. Homers tonight in the first inning or second at bat, first or second at bat.
Second inning, I want to say.
Like, dude, like, who, if he keeps doing it in the postseason, they may just hand him a blank check.
Nah, I got him being a Cub next year.
He's gonna make. I mean, either way, if he has a great postseason, he's gonna make himself a lot of money. But he, he still is 240 with 88 RBIs. He still produced. He had a good year. He had a 123 OPS, which is the same OPS plus as last year. It was a harder league to hit in this year.
Part of the issue, I think, with Alonso is his rookie season. He was so unbelievable. Broke Judge's rookie home run record. And he's been a very above average first baseman, I would say, pretty much year in, year out since then. But he hasn't been that level of good. And of course, like, obviously you can't expect that. But in New York, the expectations are once you arrive as a superstar, even if you regress into just being a very good above average first baseman, that's not enough for a lot of fans because they have those expectations. And it's interesting how you talked about his entire Mets career. Probably, I think now, I don't see a way they don't keep him. I think with the way Uncle Stevie's been talking and the way he wants to hand out blank checks, how do you let a guy like that, who just had one of the most important moments in the history of the franchise? I mean,
I was going to say, like, if it's not top three.
I was trying to think of a better 21st century Mets moment, like, because all the other big Mets moments, like the Edney Chavez catch, that came in a Game 7 loss,
and they lost, like, right?
The Johan Santana no hitter, okay, that basically ended his career. Like even like Harvey demanding to stay into the ninth inning. Remember that, of course, when it was like, I'm taking the ball. He came out and gave up a bunch of runs after that. Like, every great Mets moment of the 21st century has this kind of footnote on it of like, but by the way, they lost, like, or like a bad thing also happened. And so it's interesting. This could be the footnote on this could be Pete Alonso then left the Mets and went and played for the Cubs for 10 years. Or the footnote could be Pete Alonso. That was the moment that changed Pete Alonso's Met tenure and cemented him as like the next David Wright. And we don't know right now. It's very interesting.
I think it depends. I think it depends a lot on how the playoffs go. Like, it's a wild card game 3. It's not a CS game 6 or game 7.
But I mean, it was like they were like, it was like do or die game, do or die
against Devin Williams, and I completely agree. Like, it could be, and if they make it to the World Series and lose, it is a massive moment. Like, but if they get bounced in this round, like, is it a massive moment? I don't know. You guys are New York people, but
I mean, at least I can speak from a fan perspective. Like, that's the moment you live for as a fan.
I'm with Ian. I don't know if a wild card game-winning home run like cements a legacy for me. I'm not saying like it wasn't a big moment, and they need to go farther and do more than just like losing the ALDS or NLDS for it to be like that crazy of a moment. Because like looking back, if you're not a Mets fan, it's like I won't even remember that in 3 months.
If they don't advance, and if he doesn't keep playing the level, I mean, he's been nails since.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think, like, if he goes on one of these runs, but like, you've seen it happen in any sport, like somebody goes on a postseason run, like, you're
Daniel
a legend.
Murphy with the Mets.
Daniel Murphy, right? Exactly.
Like, you think about what Daniel Murphy did with the Mets when he hit all the homers off all of those like aces. Like, that's a Mets moment that I like remember. But they went to the World Series that year, right? And lost. But like, they made it to the World Series, and that's why you kind of remember all that stuff.
No,
yeah, I again, big, very like huge hit, like huge for him, like you were saying, Zach, like all the stuff he's gotten throughout the year about like trade him, get rid of him, blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm sure that felt incredible for him. I just think that they need to go NLCS like deep into it a little bit for it to like have as much gusto behind it for me.
Yeah, I'd also like Tom. I want to push back on your Mets tenure thing. I know he hit the 53 homers that first year with and they were massive numbers. There was a 941 OPS, but it also, and I'm sure this doesn't matter to the fans. And like I said, you guys are in New York, and so you hear it, but those were the hot baseballs, and it was the best year ever to hit. After that, that was
That's
a
a good point. I
147.
forgot that was his rookie year. Yeah.
Yeah, 19 was the rookie year those were super, super hot balls. But you look at the next, take out 2020, which he still had a good run in, but like 2021, 22, 23, 24, he's a three-time All-Star in those 4 years. 3 out of 4 All-Star games. In 22, he has 40 homers with 131 RBIs. Hits 270, and that's an 869 OPS, which is a 146 OPS plus, which is just as good as his rookie year. He has a 123 the last 2 years, and he had a 133 in 21. He's produced, he's been in there, he's been available, and like the numbers are really good. In 22, he was 8th in the MVP. He got MVP votes in 23. It's like 3 All-Star games the last 3 years. Like, he's done it.
But compared to like the superstars of the league, I feel like he just hasn't lived up to that being in the New York media.
Yeah, there's the superstar tier, and he is the tier directly below that. And that's a very good player. Like Lindor's being paid to be their superstar. And DeGrom was, and those guys are the guys that are in that like tier. And like, yeah, Pete's like right there, right on the edge. But shoot, if he's not in that tier, he's the one right below it. Like if you have Lindor and he's your guy, you're paying $300 million to do it. Like having Pete Alonso drive in 100 run drives behind him is pretty good.
Well, and Zack and Tom know from like being in New York, like if you come up as a rookie and hit 53 your first year, it's like New York's probably like, oh, we're gonna have this guy every year. He's gonna hit 45, 50
That's
plus
the thing.
every single season.
Yeah, right. You start that high, it's like, oh my God, he's gonna hit 100 home runs next year. Like he's only a rookie.
Yeah, it also makes I think it also highlights like Judge being able to continually follow up his great years with more great years. Like that's not the rule. That's the exception. Like that's what makes him a superstar. Like it's really hard.
The Judge comparisons, I think, also in New York have hurt him. Like and it's not, as you said, it's not fair to compare him to Judge, but he broke Judge's rookie home run record. They play in the same city. They're both power hitters. And as you said, Judge has put up over the last 3 years 2 of the greatest right-handed hitting seasons of like all time. So it's not Pete Alonso's fault, but a 123 OPS plus to Mets fans, I think, is a disappointment from where they expected him. And he also started this year pretty cold. I would say that's the other thing. He had a bad April and May. Even in his July, right around the trade deadline, he was not hitting very well at the time, hit 231 in July. The other thing I would say is the Mets, in the entire history of their franchise, going back to 1962, have only won 10 playoff series. So to me, when you're talking about the fact that this guy hit a game, go ahead, top of the ninth. I mean, Ian, you've talked about Devin Williams is like a guy. To hit it off Devin Williams in the ninth on the road to advance to the next round, Pete Alonso could go hitless for the rest of the playoffs. To me, he cemented his legacy because I'm looking right now through the Mets. Since 2000, they've won two playoff series. Since 2000, they've won 3 playoff series. They won 2 in 2015 and 1 in 2006. That's it. So that was their 4th franchise. For most Met fans who are alive right now, a lot of them might have only seen, that's the 4th one they've seen. So to me, I think that moment really matters to fans. But we can agree to disagree.
Can I give you, on the 4 teams that lost in the wild card round, I'd like to give you my reaction to all 4 of those teams. Okay? Ready for this?
Yep.
The Braves. They deserve a lot of credit for making the playoffs.
Yeah.
Everybody got hurt.
Chris Sale gets hurt right before Chris Sale gets hurt 162.
Right before the playoffs. Don't have him. Strider's down, Acuna's down, Riley's down, Ozzy's hitting right-handed against righties.
That's like, do you know how, just watching, obviously I didn't talk to anybody about this, but like they must have been so exhausted from the day before, like playing the Mets in that crazy doubleheader. You get punched in the face that Chris Sale is not able to pitch for you. So you're like, all right, at least we got Sale tomorrow for game 1.
I mean, you're basically trying, you're like,
you're just patching. You're putting band-aids over everything, and
when
it's like
Sale's going to start, you're giving yourself a win. You're already saying we won that game, and then he can't pitch.
You just look at him and like, obviously, just the year they had to just get punched in the face and just get back off the mat again, like, and just to make the playoffs. And especially it was kind of in that weird second game too. It was just like a, whew, but also like not like a sigh of relief, but like a God bless. I'm tired from what it looks like. You know what I'm saying? Like, just you guys throwing in both games of the doubleheader. You're flying from Atlanta to San Diego. You don't have your Cy Young pitcher for game one. You're going into a hostile environment. Go get them.
Yeah, I think Braves fans should be absolutely thrilled that team has enough depth to make the playoffs when 10 guys are hurt. And like the run that it took for them to get there, like that was amazing summer baseball. And like all those guys will get healthy and they'll be good next year, but they should be like, ooh.
Teoscar just hit a grand slam. Teoscar just hit a grand slam. It's 6-5. This game's crazy. This game's crazy.
We should just do a pod that's just this game live. Okay.
That hanger.
I'm going to my
next I don't want to jump ahead to the ALDS yet. I had a comment about that hanging sweeper he just threw, but it jumps to the ALDS and you don't want that yet. Continue. Next team, wild card.
The Astros, they just keep making playoffs. They started really bad. It was a nice run to get back in it. They don't advance, but again, we'll see what happens with that team. We'll see what happens.
Two things. One, they ran into the magic of the Detroit Tigers, and two, they got Tariq Skubal. Like Tariq Skubal, like it is the same as Chris Sale. You said he goes out there and it's like we're gonna win. Right now, Skubal takes them out, and you're like, the Tigers win. Like it's incredible. I saw somewhere like his betting lines right now, his over-under for hits allowed is like 3.5. It's like this guy's throwing 7 innings, and they're saying like he probably won't give up more than 3 hits. Like that's insane.
Bro,
he's so hard.
He is on a different level. And like Skubal has confidence, obviously, watching him. But when he's telling the whole Cleveland crowd just like bring it on, it's like, hey, by the way, it's a 4 o'clock or whatever clock start. You have the Shadows and you're facing Skubal today, boys. Go get them.
Did you see Brent Rooker's tweet?
Yes.
Brent Rooker goes, Skubal has this funny way of he'll throw 94, 95, and then all of a sudden there's 2 strikes, and it's like, oh, there's 99 by you. He's like, it's really fun. I like it.
Can I ask how weird is it playing a game at that time with the Shadows? Because I feel like it's obviously during the regular season we almost never see the 4 o'clock start. Only really, I guess, for like sometimes those Fox games, but
that's what Ian would always talk about it, because when you guys played Sunday Night Baseball in LA, I remember you always saying it's like, yeah, it's great, it's a cool game and stuff, cool atmosphere, but it's like the Shadows are horrendous.
Yeah, if you have to play Sunday Night Baseball on the West Coast, it's horrible, and they get it. Like those guys, like Dodgers, Padres, San Fran, like they get it worse than we do in the middle of the country, because like we almost never, like if we're playing Sunday Night Baseball, for us it's against either the Cardinals or an East team, so we rarely get it. I've had it a couple times in my career, but it's not very often. Those guys get it all the time, but like we'll get an occasional Fox game at Wrigley, which for us would be a 3 o'clock start because it's a 4 o'clock Eastern. When you see that on the schedule, when that gets tweaked to a 3 o'clock start, it's like no. No, because it is horrible. You better get your hits in the first 2 innings, because like innings 3 through 7 are an absolute jungle.
It sounds like an excuse, but like it truly is a completely different baseball game. Like when you hear announcers talking about it too, and it's like sometimes they'll say it when there's just like a halfway shadow, which to me that's not the worst. Like, and it's like, it's not great, but for me it's like, when we're both in the sun or we're both in the shade and you're looking into the sun, that is like, it's coming from a completely different thing of what you're standing in.
When the batter's eye is lit up.
Yes.
When the batter's eye has sun on it and
you're in the shade.
Yeah, and you're in the shade as a hitter, you are in trouble.
It's like, again, to like what Tom said, it doesn't happen often throughout the year. There's sometimes it's either in the beginning or in the end. But yeah, TV rights, man, you got to start at 3 o'clock.
But I mean, it like doesn't that suck? I mean, isn't that terrible for the playoffs? That like,
but like
we're starting games at 4 o'clock.
What are you gonna say to the media? Hey, listen, we don't want to face Scoobs with the Shadows. Can you bump us up or bump us back? It's
Boy,
just like,
and you don't want games to overlap, like
yeah,
baseball,
there's
especially
just
like
like
they're trying to spread it
nothing you
out.
can do about it. Yeah, it's just like it's
Yeah.
crazy. Like just face value, like you play all year where this doesn't happen, and then literally in the most important games, you are facing the best pitchers on planet Earth with Shadows.
You guys don't get them late in the game at day games at Wrigley,
Not
Ian,
with the
or do
pitch
they
clock
end
anymore.
before?
We used to.
Do they?
We used to get them. I remember facing Sandy uh, before when he was with St. Louis. He debuted with St. Louis like late in September, maybe it was 17 or 18, and came out of the pen like the ninth inning at Wrigley in a game that was kind of already decided. And I faced him in the shadows, throwing, 98, 99. I'm going, who is this guy?
Yeah.
Throwing a billion in the shadows. I can't see anything. And like that, we used to get it late in games, especially those long games at Wrigley, quite a bit in April and then in September.
Next team that lost.
The Brewers are like, we won the Central again, and we won the Central big. They're going to lose or maybe re-sign Willie Adames. Willie Adames has been a big piece of that team since he came over. And, it's kind of like they've gotten bounced in the playoffs now a couple times early. And, again, amazing run, probably not as exciting because they were just like running away with the Central the whole year. Kind of like, what do they do? How do they? Christian Yelich was hurt, and there's some stuff there, and it was a really exciting team. But they got a lot of young guys. They're going to be in it. They're going to be competitive, and the bullpen's intact. So it's like they're going to be in it, but they're probably looking for like what's the next? Like how do you last in the playoffs?
Dude, when I was with the Mets this year, opening day, we opened up with them and we got swept. And I remember thinking, and I was like, man, like just throughout the game, you're like, man, this lineup like kind of doesn't really let up. But you're like, oh, it's the first series, like we're starting slow. It's like whatever, because like you said, like they have a bunch of young guys. It's just, you don't really know what you're gonna get. They paid Churio, like Sal Frelick is nasty, but it's like they're kind of buried in the NL Central, like whatever. And Yelich was doing Yelich things until he got hurt. Um, and then like throughout the year, you just kind of like keep checking or whatever, and you're like, dude, they might have just been on it since day one.
Yeah, they were a good team the whole year. They never really let up. They didn't have a stretch where they really struggled because we were chasing the whole time. There wasn't a stretch where they came back to us, and they were just really solid the whole year.
This could sound dumb. Their lineup is solid 1 through 9, but with Yelich injured, is there really anyone in there though that like? If you look at like the Yankees and like the Padres and these other big teams of like, no, like this guy's coming up. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, is there really anyone in there where you're like, oh no, like this is the last person we want to see?
Yeah, I mean William Contreras. But, if you look at the numbers,
William Contreras, he had like 870 OPS as a catcher or something like that.
William Contreras,
but I'm saying like that's your biggest threat.
Yeah.
I think is like kind of where they were let down. It's like they didn't have like that superstar to like we need like Pete Alonso in the home run like. They didn't have that guy where it's like, we need this guy. He's our guy.
Yeah. I mean, that lineup with Yelich hitting 3 looks different for sure.
For sure.
But when you stick Yelich at 3, Contreras at the 2, and Willie Adames at the 4, with Hoskins, at the 5 or the 6, like it gets deep in a hurry. But you're right. When you lose a guy with a 909, like Yelich was a 900 OPS guy this year. And like when you lose that out of the lineup, like it's a huge blow. So it'll be interesting without Willie Adames because Willie Adames had 110 RBIs this year. He was second in the league.
Really?
Maybe. Dude, he was right behind Ohtani. Like he had a crazy going into free agency. Is he going to get paid?
Let's get him and Pete over to Chicago. Let's get them all.
Gonna get
any big name.
Willie Adames is going to make money.
But any big name you tell me that's a free agent, I'm just going to keep saying like they're going to be a Cub.
Willie Adames is 29 years old. He had 32 homers with 112 RBIs.
Sounds like a Chicago Cub to me, man. And he can hit it. Miller, I don't know what it's called now. It's still Miller Park to me. I don't know if it changed, but he can hit there.
Family.
You're going to play
fam.
I got it at Miller Park. Sorry.
Okay, here's my last one before we move on.
I got it as Wrigley North.
The Orioles.
True. Yeah. The Orioles is a crazy one.
What do? They're going to lose. They're going to lose Corbin Burns. Wait. Let me get through this. You're going to lose Corbin Burns. You got a lot of young talent. Anthony
Yeah.
Santander, he's gone. Unless they're going to dish out some money, unless they're going to start spending, Santander's gone and Corbin Burns is gone. The bullpen, they brought in some pieces from the Phillies. I don't know how many of those guys are gone, but it's like you got a ton of young talent. You got some young superstars. What do you do?
So I don't think it's a what do we do now? I think the issue is further. Obviously, Corbin Burns, like you're going to want to try to get him back, like the ace of your rotation, and like Santander had an unreal year. I don't think the issues are arising yet. I think the issues become when Adley gets through ARB, when Holiday, when Gunnar Henderson, and it's like, how do we pay all of you? Cowser, all of those guys. It's like, we can't pay all of you, and you're all very good. That's
But
where, for me, like,
new ownership there.
Mm-hmm.
But they've run a big
payroll.
Take
a lot.
They
ran take a lot.
When Showalter was managing and they were doing it in the 2013 to 2017, like they were running a big payroll. Adam Jones, Chris Davis, JJ Hardy, like they had Matt Wieters, like they were running. They brought in Ubaldo, like they're running a payroll out there. It's going to be interesting to see with this young core. And they got some time. They got some time with these young guys before they really start getting paid. And even the guys that are going to get paid in ARP1, like they got some time before it gets really big. But they are going to have to weigh that against the free agent contracts that they bring in and figure out like, okay, if we're going to bring this guy in for 6 years, like what does that look like? So it'll be interesting to see how they spend. But
I think the tough part is the two big names of obviously Adley Rutschman and Gunnar Henderson. Like Gunnar Henderson has the looks this year of someone that's going to get 300 plus million by the time he's due a contract. Adley Rutschman, a great two-way defender, is going to get 200 million, something like that. So like those two guys will be who you want to pay. My thing is more like the Colton Cowser and like the not second fiddles. I don't want to say that, but like the not as well-known names that had unreal years, like they're still going to demand like a good amount of money. That's going to be tough to pay all these guys to keep them all around, which obviously is like a good problem to have of like, hey, we have so much young talent, but it's like, who do we keep? Who do we pay? Like Santander's going to be getting a lot of money this offseason after the year he just had.
Yeah, it'll be also be interesting to see if they trade from that. They still got some guys in the minor leagues. It'll be interesting to see if they trade for some pitching or what it looks like. But those four teams are all interesting cases here, except the Braves. They're good. They're gonna get healthy. They're good.
Yeah, they're not one. Yeah, I agree.
Before we get to the next team, can we I just saw they just showed Tommy Edman playing shortstop. What a utility guy to have. Like you kind of forgot about him this year, or was it the last year or so?
He was hurt. They traded for him.
He just didn't play at all. But like the guy, he won a Gold Glove at second base. He has hit, OPS plus is 100, which is right at league average. But like, if you can have a league average hitter who can play up the middle, both positions, center field and right field at a very like high level, you can that's an extra player on your roster.
Switch hitter that rakes right-handed too.
Yeah, bro. Like, and they just showed him playing shortstop where he missed the whole year. Like, hey Tommy, we need you. It's game 3. Can you go play short? She's like, yeah, sure, got it.
Yeah, he murdered us.
He had two off Shota.
Two off Shota. He had a lefty one later in the series, but good player. And what a trade by them to go and say he's hurt, but it doesn't look like he's actually going to play in St. Louis. St. Louis has kind of bounced him around last year after he played shortstop, I think the year before. So, yeah, good trade by them.
After 162 games, it's finally time for some October baseball. Get in on all the playoff action at DraftKings Sportsbook. From same-game parlays to live betting to odds boosts and so much more, DraftKings has you covered until a champion is crowned. Right now, all new customers who bet just $5 will instantly get $200 in bonus bets, and that's when you use the promo code COMPOUND. Stay into the action and use your $200 in bonus bets to bet anytime homers on DraftKings. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. New customers use promo code COMPOUND and bet just $5 on any wager and get $200 in bonus bets instantly.
Let's start Dodgers Padres. We're talking about it already.
Good. Get in there. Wait, let me say something first.
Sure.
Bruce Bolt. I love Bruce Bolt. You love Bruce Bolt. BruceBolt.us. I was cleaning out. I got moved in here. Was cleaning out my baseball bag. Looking. I got a couple of Bruce Bolts for the off season. BruceBolt.us. Go check them out.
Did you listen to my ad read last week of it?
Yes.
You're such a liar, but it was actually good. I thought I did good. Tom said I did good on the ad reads last week.
Dakota was a very capable host. I was very proud of him.
Let's go. I stayed locked in. I didn't joke around too much.
You played up. That was above average stuff.
Big time players make big time plays. That's what we expect.
That's right. I was needed, so I was like,
you know where you were Tommy Edman. We plugged you in here. Yeah,
yeah, that's right.
Above serviceable.
The old school fireman out of the bullpen. We wasn't the spot you're used to being the closer, but we were like, hey, 7th inning, big spot, we need you. No problem.
You know what? You would be a great Detroit Tiger in the bullpen right now. That's who you would be, right on that pitching chaos.
You know what I was listening to today? I was listening to how much you loved closing. Tom was asking me about closing games and the difference, and I was listening to how much you love closing. That's what I was listening to.
What a rush. They were talking today about that on the broadcast with Michael King, how he said he wants to channel the energy he would get coming out of the bullpen and use that as a starter now, which I just think is hard to do over the course of so many innings. Knowing you have one inning versus hey, we need you to try to go 6, that one inning is everything you got. And over 6, it's you kind of need to ride the wave a little bit. But
I don't know if you saw it the other night, Dakota. I was thinking about this in terms of Rodon.
I was just going to say, yeah.
Yeah. Rodon yesterday came out, struck out the side in the first, and was real fired up after each one of the strikeouts. To the point where I was like, all right, I love the enthusiasm, but let's keep it going. And then didn't really keep it going. I mean, he pitched fine. It wasn't his fault, but it wasn't his best outing either.
That just never seems to work on the pitching side. You just can't be that up all the time and not use all of your energy. I just feel that's so hard to do as a starter.
Scott and I talk about it all the time. When you, I don't know if it's PG rated, but you let out a lot of energy, after a big inning and you kind of let it eat. That's a telling sign, hey, we got to take him out. As a reliever,
yes.
It's hard to go from the tippy top and then you have to go calm down in the dugout for maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever it is. And then you have to get back up to that again. That's a lot of energy.
You see that so many times where a guy gets a big strikeout to end an inning. Say he got into his own jam. It's first and second, 2 out, strikes guy out, fired up coming off the mound. It's you need to take this guy out. They send him back out for another inning. It's walk, base hit, homer. And it's he was done. You had to get him out of there. That was all he had.
Yep.
How often do you see, when you think of the aces, the guys that have been around for a long time that are aces that do it over and over and over, how long do you see them get absolutely fired up before the 5th inning?
Yeah, it's usually always at the end of their if they know they're at 95 pitches, 97, they're all right, I get this out, I'm going to be fired up. They get that big strikeout and they let it out and they're I did it.
How many times have you seen a guy do exactly what you're saying? Think his start is done, give that big emotion, and then as you said, Zach said, the worst feeling, and I always think about this the most during the college baseball tournaments, when you watch the NCAA tournament stuff, because when you're Stony Brook or somebody, you're hey man, you got to go. Sorry, you just got us out against Alabama in the 7th. The guy with the bases loaded, but Alabama's still batting. You got to go out for the 8th.
Yeah,
and then that's when you always see the guy go and you go it was just one inning too many.
I
feel it happened a lot. Real quick, I feel it happened a lot with Severino when he was a Yankee. I feel he was big.
Dakota, I thought that Tom was going to say that. I swear to God, that's wild.
That's who I pictured was Sevy had a lot of, I feel big outs and he'd be fired up and then they'd send him back out there and it was homer, base hit. And it's
I remember
he was done.
I remember I don't know how it sticks out, but it was either Girardi or Boone So Sevy was starting, and one of his starts, he was like his first two pitches were like over 100, and they were like 99 to 100. And I remember the Yankees saying after they were like, "Yeah, we kind of knew we were kind of in some trouble here when he was throwing 99 to 100." And then his next one, he had a much better outing, and they were like, "Yeah, like he kind of honed his energy, and it was like 94, 95 to start the game." And you're like, "All right, okay, now we kind of got him." But that is what I remember. And I thought Tom was going to go right there. And I was like, oh my God, he's reading my mind.
Yeah. We were all thinking it.
That's right. Ball knowers.
That's right.
This point's a little bit lost now, but I'm going to make it because I've been trying to make it for a minute.
I'm sorry. I had to say this everything.
We faced Verlander, and it was the first time I'd faced him in my career at Wrigley this year. Not a playoff game. Not a playoff game. It might have been his first start back, though. And he loaded the bases in the first and got out of it, maybe with no outs, maybe one out, and got out of it with no runs. Punched the guy with the bases loaded, 2 outs to get out of it, no runs. Not even an ounce of emotion. Not even an ounce. And his stuff ticked up when the bases got loaded, but it was not a different demeanor. It was, and he got that last out of the first inning, and there was not an ounce of worry. There wasn't an ounce of celebration. But you face guys all the time, and usually they're younger, but you face guys that they get in a jam, first, second, third inning, they get out of it, and they get fired up. And that doesn't mean that they come out the next inning and the stuff splatter, that they give it up. But it just is interesting. Lester, same way. Like watching him, watching Lack, watching those guys pitch in those moments early in a game, they would never like get juiced coming off the mound before, 5th, 6th, 7th inning. When the game, when there was, and I equate this to like when there was a win on the line,
Yeah.
like it was always more about when there was a win on the line, when it was like, I need to get out of this to preserve the chance to win a baseball game for our team. Like that's when the juice came out. And sometimes it would be the 5th inning, at 75 pitches, and there would be a little bit of like a fist bump. And yeah, the big one would come out like when they knew they were done, but it was never like I don't know. It always seemed like they had a really good measure of when they needed to do that.
For sure.
I mean, it isn't being a starting pitcher almost in some ways like running a race or something? Like you kind of have to know how to pace yourself for
the tortoise in the hare, Tom. It's the tortoise in the hare.
The other thing I would say is Dakota. I mean, I think you could speak to this. There are certain guys, like when especially as a broadcaster, when you're interviewing guys and stuff, you get to see a little bit of their personality. There are certain guys that are like, this guy's a relief pitcher. Like this guy could not be a starting, like just based on how his personality is. Like this guy wants to throw 100. He doesn't have the ability to throw 6 innings. Like mentally, he can't do that. But if you give him 1 inning, he can go out there and dominate.
Yeah, 100%. Like the relievers are usually a little more like psycho. Like they just have a little something wrong with them, a little screw loose. Except myself, obviously, very normal guy.
That was why I was approaching that question gently, because that was what I basically wanted to say, but I didn't want to say that to you because you are a reliever.
Like you can tell the relievers just got a little something off. Starters are typically more like routine oriented, like casual, chill. Like there's still a mixture of both within like relievers and starters that doesn't really make sense. And then you get into the whole left-handed thing of like you can tell who a lefty is. Like they're just a different breed, and it's like, what's wrong with this guy? It's like, oh, he throws lefty, and it's like, yep, checks out.
The left-handed reliever was always my favorite interview as the broadcaster because that guy was never not interesting. But you always immediately could identify him within 3 seconds of meeting any team. You go, oh, there's lefty reliever.
They're always just a little quirky, just a little different.
This conversation started with Dodgers Padres, and we've talked so much about the Dodgers Padres that I was wondering if Dakota, you wanted to get into that.
Yeah, I was gonna. The only thing I had on the Dodgers Padres right now, because the game's going on 6-5 Padres right now, 1-1 series.
Dakota, did you see Tommy Evans play just now?
Yeah, that was such a heady play of Cronenworth's on first, a little blooper to him, purposely drops it, throws it to second, so Higashioka's on first instead of Cronenworth. Just, the little
just being a ball player, man.
What I was going to say about this series is like we were talking about the Brewers lineup not letting up. Like talk about a lineup that doesn't let up. The Padres, like you got Xander Bogaerts in the 6 hole. It's like that guy's one of the best shortstop. Well, does he play third for them? Where does he play for them? Does he
play playing short now? He's playing short.
But like that guy's in your 6 hole. Like, that's insane. Tatis, Machado, Profar's been unreal. Arise at the top of the lineup.
Jackson Merrill is a stud.
Jackson Merrill could be rookie of the year. Shouldn't be. It should be Shota. Go Cubs. But no, it's a fun series. This is an electric series. A little bit of bad blood there in division rivals, but it's been sick to watch.
Ian, how I don't know if we've ever talked about it on here before, but Petco is such a cool environment.
Petco's great. And like Petco,
I just went there for the first time this year. Like that's a different world, man.
Petco with a packed house, because early in my career, Petco, not really a packed house. Petco was like, there's a lot of Cubs fans that came to San Diego to see the game.
They were chanting Nico Horner.
Vacation. Yeah. And then, it was kind of like 2021. I remember being there when they had, I think we were there right before they opened it back up to a full crowd. And it was still pretty loud. And then we went back in 22 and it was like, wow, like this place packed on like a Tuesday night. Like it's a great atmosphere there. They do a good job with kind of in between innings and the graphics and everything. And just like it's loud. And we had a game this year early, bro. We had a game this year early that like Javi Assad was kind of shoving, and then we went up like 8-1, and then they came back and beat us. I think Tatis hit a homer in the 8th or something. Like it got loud there. And that fan base is so excited for the potential of them beating the Dodgers. And like they've been waiting for this. It's really good. Andy Green, who was the manager of the Padres, who was the bench coach for the Cubs under Rossi, and an unbelievable human being. There's a really good quote that I've seen float on Twitter of when this was 20, must have been 18-ish. He was talking about like they weren't on the Dodgers level, and he was like, at some point, like we're gonna be there or surpass them, and like it's not now, but like we're building the like blocks to do this. And I think that's how that fan base feels. It's like the last 3 years, like they've been building to like take on the Dodgers and surpass them and like cement themselves as the top of the NL West. And it's an important series, not only for the players, as they all are, but the fans really care right now about this series in particular.
Tom,
yeah,
your former boy Michael King is nasty.
He's gross. If he can.
Do you miss him, Tom?
Michael King
traded from the Yankees to the Padres this offseason in the Soto deal.
Yeah, so in 2019 when I worked for the Yankees, I helped write some of the media bios for some of the non-roster invitees. Was one of my assignments. Michael King was a non-roster invitee in 2019. Was the 2018 minor league pitcher of the year. Went to Boston College, which is my mom's alma mater. He was one of those guys when you write a bio, I was instantly like, I think this guy's like, and then you go back and you look at all this, like he was doing it across 3 levels. Like go look at his 2018 minor league numbers, did it across 3 levels, started the year in Tampa, end of the year in Scranton, was like a truly incredible year, through like 165 innings in the minors. Guy was dominant. And then it took him a few years in the majors to kind of put it together. And you could see they weren't sure if he was a starter. He was kind of a swing guy. And then all of a sudden, towards the end of his Yankee tenure, he put it together. And when we got Soto, obviously it was like, we got Soto, doesn't matter. Like you do that trade 1,000 times out of 1,000. But to lose King, and especially like I always felt that little connection to him, it was genuinely, I was like, man, like I know I can't feel sad because of it's Juan Soto and you do it, but I really wish they hadn't had to give up King, because you can think about how valuable a guy like Michael King is, and there's not that many of him in the league. I think he's one of the most underrated pitchers in baseball.
Little quick Michael King thing here is while we're on the topic. I got to spend some time with him when the Padres came to town, because him and JMO played together with the Yankees, and so we had a dinner kind of together at JMO's, and he's an awesome dude, and like one of those things that I've gotten just talking to JMO about the starting thing, and like for him to get an opportunity to start every 5 days all the way through the year and to really thrive in that role. I think he had TJ in 22, right? And so for him to get like comes off TJ in 23 and then for him to start every day in 24 and really be able to like cement himself as like I'm a starting pitcher. I'm gonna throw 180 innings a year and like go into free agency that way. Like that's a really cool. It's never a linear career path. Well, maybe for Juan Soto. For most people, it's not a linear career path. And like for him to be able to kind of have this year and establish himself and be able to kind of they're gonna run him out in San Diego again to have another full year. Like it's pretty awesome.
You could tell his last year with the Yankees, 2.75 ERA in 49 games, made 9 starts, finished 10 games. Like just having a guy like that in your team, you could at least I felt very strongly that he was going to be a top of the line starter, and that's what he's turned into. And again, you do the trade, but congrats to the Padres for at least getting very good value back for that one. So if you're going to trade a guy like Soto, getting someone like Michael King into the franchise is the way you do it.
Can we talk about the Mets Phillies game on Sunday, please?
Before you get into that,
okay.
We just talked about the Dodgers Padres and how much has been going on in that series between the two teams and kind of the animosity and trying to between the Padres fans and what they is on the line there. Like Mets Phillies it's been the same way. I mean, those two fan bases, a rivalry, interdivision. The Mets trying to say like the Phillies kind of wiped that division this year. The Mets saying like, no, we're here and we're playing good baseball. That one's been a really fun one to watch too.
Yeah, like Sunday's game, Vientos, 2-run homer, 2-0 Mets. Pete Alonso in the 6th inning, homer, 3-0 Mets. Phillies are down 1-0 in the series, down 3-0 this game, bottom 6, lifeless, Phillies dying. Bryce Harper hits a bomb to center, a bomb. And then classic Castellanos is up there as one of the top like 5 people I'd want at the plate. Like when I need a base hit, he hits a back-to-back homer. It's an electric factory. I've rewatched the video of Bryce's homer because he hits the homer. He's like excited, but casually rounding the bases. He crosses home and like fires up the crowd. And there's a noticeable like bump in the crowd, like getting fired up. Castellanos ties it. But then Nimmo in the top of the 7th, homer, 4-3 Mets. Oh no, we're in trouble. Bryson Stott at the plate, triple right field line. Now we got 5-4 Phillies. And then
this is incredible. We need Dakota to start cutting highlights of games. I'm riveted.
So it's 5-4 Phillies. Real Muto hits into a force out, run scores. We got a little bobble at third. CS makes that play. I'm not saying it, but I said it. So we go 6-4, top 9. 6-4 Phillies, top 9. And there's that guy, Mark. Do you see it? Vientos? Is that how you say it, Zach?
Yep, Vientos.
Vientos again.
That was a homer hit. It was like a heater from Strom
outer half.
That was crazy.
And Strom's the reverse splits guy. He's better versus righties than he is lefties.
Is he really?
Homer tight. Yeah.
With that ride on the heater, he's got crazy. For the people at home, he's got crazy life on his fastball, and so it's really, really hard up in the zone. Like he doesn't get hit up in the zone. He's trying to throw fastballs at your chest. Doesn't get hit up there. You got to get him down. Vientos goes, no, not me. I'm gonna hit it at my neck. And
that's one of those homers you give up where you're just like you tip your cap. And you're like, I don't know what 100%. I should have thrown you there. Like you beat me.
Was that 2 strikes too?
Yes. So again, Mets were down. Phillies are alive, and it's like they come back and tie it again. It's like, what is going on? Castellanos comes up in the bottom of the 9th. You know he's going to get a base hit. There was never a doubt in the world. Phillies win. It was one of the best games I've ever watched, just the back and forth and like the electricity of Harper's homer and then Castellanos back-to-back. Like I said, I don't ever look away from football. I was looking away from football to watch that game.
I wish that game was the only game on TV because it would have gotten way more like hyped as it should have. That's a really hard time to have a game.
Yeah. It was like middle of NFL Sunday. It was going on.
And especially that type of game, bro.
But it was sick. It was like I said, one of the best games I've seen in a while.
I have two things. My first thing, I would love to see Mets Phillies go to a game 5. Whoever wins. The Mets are up 2-1 right now as we record this. I would absolutely love to see a decisive Game 5
with Wheeler on
that
the
would be
phone.
back in Philly, right?
In Philly,
No,
yeah,
in
with
Philly.
Wheeler.
I would love to see a decisive Game 5. That would be great for baseball. And it being in the middle of the week, I think that would be today's Tuesday. That would be Thursday. No, Friday.
Because they'll play tomorrow and then they'll have
Even
the
better. Not fighting any football on Friday. Great for baseball.
Yeah.
Okay, my second thing, Dakota.
Yes,
if
sir.
it's Sunday, you love football. You're watching football.
Love football.
Were you at work when this was happening?
No,
Sunday,
I don't
you're
work
off
on Sundays. No,
you're off on Sundays.
If you think I only got one screen going,
that's what I wanted to know. I wanted to know what kind
of
of setup do you have going where do you have a TV and a computer, an iPad? Do you have three screens going? Is your phone one?
Ian, you naive
so young and naive.
You naive boy. The TV, dear boy Ian, is Red Zone. The laptop had on baseball. The iPad had on whatever game was on Fox or CBS. And then I had my monitor also casually playing NCAA football at the same time while the phone is checking on fantasy and seeing those updates. So I have 5 screens going at a time. Yes, I love the stimulus. Tom, question.
I'm sorry, follow-up question. So the 4 screens are going, and then you're like, I'm not actually like interested enough in what's going on. I need a 5th thing to do, which is play NCAA football at the same time while all the other things are going on.
Dakota,
the NCAA
kickoff.
Oh, no, hold on. I want to hear his answer.
What time is this starting? This setup?
Well, with London games going on, we were up early getting some coffee to watch some London football.
Why'd you watch? You shouldn't have watched that.
I'm also a soccer guy, so I watch soccer in the mornings. But yes, Tom, the video games happen more in the later slots because there's less games going on and I need more stimulus. The early slots is usually more me kind of kicked back watching. But yeah, it's a lot going on. It's my nirvana. It's my best possible, bury me there. I could die a happy man on a Sunday afternoon at 3:00.
And for the people concerned about the blue light that you're consuming.
Oh, I got the glasses.
You wear the glasses.
Of course. I got to protect these bad boys. Come on.
Last question: who's the NCAA franchise with? Who's the dynasty? Right
Tom. I don't know how to check how many hours I've played on this game, but it's weeks.
God.
It's weeks. I'm currently Boise State. I have gone through every 1-star team in Dynasty, won a natty with pretty much all of them. And then I'm like, all right, do I really want to take a Texas job and go play at Texas? That's too easy for me. I'm pretty good at the game. So I need to play with bad teams. So I just kind of have been shuffling through bad teams in the game, but I'm currently Boise State because I like running with Ash and Genty. Ian, yes.
Unbelievable.
Can I ask you a question? At what point do you shut down? At what point do you say, I've done enough with this team, I'm going to shut it down?
A natty. If I win a natty, I don't play another year because I'm
I
just won one. I can do it again. I have even better players the next year.
Okay.
I'm again, it's not a cool thing to say. I'm a loser, but I'm very good at the game. So I don't lose that often if I have a good team.
You're not into building a 20-year run and getting
it'd be so many consecutive natties. I'm telling you.
But you could always just switch. You could always just go to a 1-star program. You could always take a job.
Yeah, what about if in the 1-stars, then you go to another 1-star? You
only get offered higher up jobs typically. So if I'm FIU, Florida International, obviously everyone knows that. I'm not going to have UL Monroe offering me a job because it'd be a downgrade. So they're not even going to reach out with an offer because they're never getting this guy. Big shooter, that guy's winning it all. That's the name of my coach.
All right, here's a hot take. Here's a hot take. Maybe what you do is you win a national title with the Boise State. And then what you do is you just lose. You just lose for a couple straight years. You just really throw in the towel.
I'd have to sim those games to lose.
Yeah, you sim them right out. Just lose for a couple years, and then you might get it. You might get an offer somewhere else.
That's true. Or I could just restart and be a lower level team again,
I do let me ask you another question. This is my last question. If we added up every device and all the screen times, are we talking 30, 40, 50 hours of screen time in one day between 5 devices? Or
this is why Dakota's phone screen time doesn't count, bro.
No, because are you counting my time at work too or no?
No. I'm saying on a Sunday. That Sunday.
Oh,
but all 5 screens together.
Oh,
are we looking at
100
50 hours?
Over 100. No, not over 100 because 10 hours, 7 hours of commercial-free football.
That'd be 20 hours
on 5
screens.
devices.
Well, we got 7 hours of commercial-free football. Everyone knows that. So that's times 5 devices, at least 7 hours. So that's 35 hours right there. And like realistically, I'm watching stuff before that, after that. Like, yeah, it's probably like 40, 50 hours.
I don't know why Sloan doesn't sponsor you for the screen time. Just you.
And sorry, that makes me happy. No one can judge me because that's what makes me happy, and I just want everyone to be happy. Let's get to the Sloan screen time, Ian.
Sunday Sloan screen time. Presented by our
we're not
friends
doing
Sloan.
No. You don't pick and choose the day.
Sloan is the world's leading manufacturer in commercial plumbing systems. They're at the forefront of the green building movement, provide smart, sustainable, and hygienic restroom solutions by manufacturing water-efficient products, including flushometers, faucets, sink systems, soap dispensers, and fixtures for commercial, industrial, and institutional markets worldwide. To learn more, visit sloan.com. Sloan screen time for today. Dakota has quite an advantage.
I'll tell you what Sundays was, just to give you a reference. Today,
my thing is still effed up, dude.
Yeah, mine is also still. Me and Zach have the same issue.
We got some cheaters.
What's yours today, Ian? It's just you versus me, Ian.
I got 344.
Oh, I got 4-3, 4 hours, 3 minutes. You want to know what my Sunday one was?
Yes,
it's really not. It's not that bad. 10 hours, 16 minutes.
If mine was working today with all of the Jets coverage that I was trying to get inside information on.
You've sent me so many tweets about the Jets today.
I would just like to say shout out to Danny Mueller. We did have a nice conversation today about hot takes, and I wrote a few down. We're not going to get to it, but I just want to shout him out because we did talk about it.
Love that.
So I got a couple from
Danny.
We'll
get to them. They're in the pocket.
Future episodes. We'll get to them. No rush.
100%,
no rush. That's episode, could be any episode, 227. 228. That was a Compound podcast presented by Parse Rum. Go to Binny's, get your Parse. When I say Parse, you say Rum. Parse.
Rum.
We will see you next week.